The sky ripped open, not with thunder, but with a sound like every city alarm wailing at once, metallic and wrong. Then came the light, a sickly violet pulse that tore through the pre-dawn gloom, not just illuminating, but disintegrating. Concrete evaporated, glass shrieked as it vaporized, and a wave of pure force slammed into every structure, every person, with the casual violence of a god swatting flies. Across the globe, the attack registered not as a coordinated assault, but as a cacophony of isolated horrors. Here, on what was once called Neo-Kyoto, the air tasted like ozone and pulverized dust. Above, sleek, dark shapes, too angular to be natural, too silent to be falling, hung like malevolent insects. Their underbellies pulsed, spitting lances of violet energy that carved new canyons into the urban sprawl. Below, Sergeant Elena Rivas, blood streaming from a gash above her eye, struggled to pull herself from the wreckage of what used to be a pedestrian bridge. Her comms unit was dead, a crackle of static the only reply. Around her, people ran, their screams swallowed by the distant, booming impacts. Panic was a raw, primal thing. But even through the terror, she saw it. The mother shielding her child with her own body. The man desperately trying to pull a trapped stranger from rubble. Instinct. Then the smaller craft descended, a scout ship settling with a whine of displaced air onto a cracked plaza. Its ramp hissed open, revealing figures not much taller than humans, clad in segmented chitinous armor. They moved with an unnerving confidence, their multi-jointed limbs flexing, energy carbines held loose. They expected no resistance. They expected to simply walk in. One alien, its head a cluster of optical sensors, stepped forward, scanning the fleeing populace. A low, guttural chittering sound, translated somehow through universal frequencies, filled the air. Pathetic. So fragile. No unity. Easy prey. Elena gripped the bent rebar she'd instinctively snatched. Her breath hitched. Fragile? Maybe. But her blood was boiling. She saw an old man stumble, a young alien trooper raising its carbine. Without thinking, Elena roared, a sound torn from her gut, a defiant, utterly human sound. She launched herself forward, not with strategy, not with hope, but with an animal fury, swinging the rebar like a club. The alien turned, surprised, its sensors flashing. It never saw the improvised weapon connect with its armored head. The chitine cracked. The creature staggered. That's when the others moved. A construction worker, ignoring the danger, revved the engine of a derelict forklift, its tines rising like an angry beast. A chef, clutching a heavy cast-iron skillet, screamed obscenities and charged. A ripple of something other than fear began to spread through the scattered survivors. A spark. A refusal. They just hit a nerve. Humanity had been sleeping, divided, but now they were waking up. And waking up, we tend to get very, very angry. The air in the subterranean concourse was thick, with the scent of pulverized concrete and fear. Overhead, the rhythmic thump-thump of alien scout patrols echoed, disembodied and chilling. These weren't the hulking destroyers from above. These were smaller, silent-footed ground units, their multifaceted optical sensors sweeping the cavernous space with dispassionate efficiency. From their perch behind a collapsed support pillar, 8 survivors watched, barely breathing. Among them was Dr. Eris Thorne, an astrophysicist whose mind, usually grappling with cosmic distances, was now focused on the cold logic of an alien hunt. He watched the alien search patterns. Predictable, methodical. They moved as if cataloging inanimate objects, not seeking living, thinking beings. Their low, clicking chitter, translated by the hacked universal comms unit of a fallen soldier, floated through the gloom. No organized resistance. Species primitives. Minimal threat. Proceed with pacification protocols. Eris felt a cold knot tighten in his gut. They weren't seeing people, they were seeing data points. Weakness. Inefficiency. A silent judgment, delivered with every unhurried step. Beside him, an electrician named Maya gritted her teeth, her knuckles white around a heavy wrench. Primitives, huh? They haven't seen primitive when it's angry. One of the ground units paused, its optical array swiveling. pointing directly at their hiding place. Every human froze. The low hum of its energy carbine began to spool up. Heat signature detected. Confirming. "Now!" Eris hissed, pointing to a tangle of exposed power conduits above them. Maya didn't hesitate. Scrambling up the debris, nimble as a spider monkey, she plunged the wrench into the exposed wiring. Sparks erupted, blue-white and violent, followed by a shower of concrete dust and a cacophony of screeching metal as overloaded circuits ruptured. The alien unit below recoiled, its energy weapons sputtering. Its sensors, optimized for biological heat and movement, were overwhelmed by the sudden electrical surge and blinding light. It stumbled back, clicking in confusion. Its companion units, momentarily disoriented, turned their attention to the chaotic cascade of sparks and falling debris, interpreting it as an environmental hazard. This was humanity's silent response to their judgment, not with overwhelming force, but with a jab to the eye, a slap to their data-driven arrogance. They saw chaos. Humans saw opportunity. They saw weakness. Humans saw the ability to make a fuse box into a weapon. As the aliens struggled to recalibrate, the small group of survivors, led by Eris and Maya, melted deeper into the shadows, a desperate, dangerous flicker of hope kindling in their eyes. The silent judgment of the invaders had been delivered, but humanity, it turned out, had its own silent verdict to return. And it was going to be loud. The smoke tasted like burnt plastic and despair, clinging to the back of the throat, stinging the eyes. Below, the city was a vast, smoldering ruin, punctuated by the angry red glow of collapsing structures. From their precarious perch on the 47th floor of a half-shattered skyscraper, former demolition expert Kai watched the silent, predatory hum of an alien patrol ship sweep past. Its spotlights, wide and blinding, cut through the night, leaving no shadow unexplored. "They're getting bolder," whispered Anya, a young architect, her face smudged with soot, a makeshift tourniquet tight around her arm. Her voice was raspy, laced with exhaustion, but her eyes, wide and clear, never left the alien craft. "They think we're hiding," Kai grunted, spitting a mouthful of bitter dust. "We are. But not for long if they keep this up." His hands, scarred and calloused from years of working with explosives, now gripped a crowbar. Around them, the skeletal remains of what was once an office building offered little in the way of cover, but plenty in the way of raw materials. Twisted metal, shattered glass, discarded office furniture, all scrap. But to humans, scrap was merely potential. The alien craft, sleek and dark as obsidian shard, made another pass, its silent hum growing louder. It dipped lower this time, its spotlights lingering on their floor. A sensor drone, small and buzzing like an angry hornet, detached from its belly, weaving through the broken girders, searching. "It's going to find us," Anya stated, not in panic, but with a stark realism. Kai's gaze flickered to a stack of filing cabinets and a pile of shattered glass, then to a leaking gas pipe. An idea, half-formed and dangerous, sparked in his eyes. "No, we'll find it." He pointed to the gas pipe. "Anya, can you rig a spark? Something big?" Her eyes widened. "Are you crazy? This whole section could go up." "Or," Kai countered, grabbing a handful of shredded fabric, "it could give us a window." He nodded to two other survivors, a security guard and a delivery driver. "Get that glass. All of it. And any other junk that'll make noise." As the drone approached their level, its optical sensors pulsing, Kai gave the signal. Anya, her hands trembling but steady, touched the frayed wires to the leaking gas line. A sudden whoosh, followed by a blinding flash of orange and red, erupted from the pipe. Flames licked high, momentarily silhouetting their forms. The alien drone, caught directly in the sudden inferno, shrieked, its delicate sensors overloaded. It veered wildly, colliding with the side of the building with a sound like tearing metal. Immediately, Kai and the others threw the heavy shards of glass, the filing cabinets, the office chairs, anything they could lift, down into the fire. The cascade of debris, magnified by the roar of the fire, created an unbearable din, a literal wall of noise and chaos. The patrol ship above hesitated, its sensors likely screaming about structural instability and impossible energy signatures. It ascended, pulling back, clearly unwilling to risk its own hull in such a volatile, unpredictable situation. Below, the flames danced, reflecting in their grimy faces. They were wounded, scared, but they had just driven off an alien warship with a gas pipe, some broken glass, and a whole lot of nerve. It wasn't about winning the war with that single act, not yet. It was about proving a point. Humanity might burn, but it would burn bright. And it wouldn't go down without taking something with it. The sterile hum of the primary tactical console was a constant, low thrum in the observation chamber of the Harbinger. Commander Veron, a being of segmented carapace and multifaceted eyes, watched the planet below resolve into a grid of shimmering data points. Red zones indicated ongoing pacification, yellow, residual pockets of resistance. These, humans, designated species 734, were proving inefficiently stubborn. "Report on Sector Gamma 7, Veron rasped, its vocalizer producing a series of dry clicks. A subordinate drone, designated Unit 88, projected a sequence onto the main view screen. Smoke plumed from a high-rise structure. Unanticipated localized thermal event. Primitive incendiary activation using a gas conduit, followed by mass projection of silicate fragments. Damage to scouting drone negligible, but patrol craft, Harbinger Delta, disengaged due to environmental hazard. Computation, illogical. Wasteful expenditure of resources for minimal gain. Veron's primary optical sensors narrowed. Inefficient, yes. But the Tyval Y remains an anomaly. Previous reports indicate similar spontaneous energy discharges, causing temporary sensor blindness in ground units. No strategic value detected. Pure disruption. Another screen flickered, showing a thermal scan of a collapsed tunnel system. A cluster of faint heat signatures moved erratically. A lone human, visible through a grainy image from a repaired scout drone, was seen carving a crude symbol into a wall. It was a circle, with 2 lines extending from the bottom. Nothing in the Veron's vast database correlated. It wasn't a warning, not a sign of surrender, not a tactical marker. It was abstract. Commander, UNIT 88 projected. Analysis of recorded vocalizations from captured subjects reveals high instances of cursing and repeated references to luck and stubbornness. No logical framework for these concepts exists within our known galactic species parameters. Veron cycled through the data. Buildings spontaneously combusting, electrical systems shorting out with impossible timing, symbols that meant nothing, emotional outbursts categorized as cursing. All of it a messy, unpredictable blur that defied their clean, perfect algorithms. The species was supposed to fold. Its internal conflicts and technological disparity should have rendered it helpless. Yet, isolated incidents, small, often self-destructive, kept flaring up. Their resistance is not logical, Veron concluded. The click's sharper this time. It does not conform to known patterns of military engagement or subjugation protocols. Their actions are reactive, instinctual, as if they are not fighting for victory, but merely to annoy us. A low growl emanated from Veron. These anomalies, these small, insignificant acts of defiance, were beginning to add up. They were smudges on the clean data, static in the signal. The humans were not just resisting. They were actively confusing the system. They weren't a challenge. They were a puzzle the Veron's logical minds couldn't solve. And that, to a species built on order and predictable outcomes, was far more unsettling than any direct assault. The universe had laws, parameters, probabilities. But humanity? Humanity was a glitch in the matrix. A persistent, infuriating, glorious glitch. And they were just beginning to understand that some truths couldn't be quantified. The cold, metallic tang of rust filled the abandoned radio station, a scent as heavy as the silence. Dust motes danced in the sparse shafts of light that pierced the grimy windows, illuminating defunct dials and cobweb-laced consoles. Outside, the world was a shattered echo, but here, beneath a skeletal antenna tower that seemed to claw at the bruised sky, an old man named Elias was trying to whisper to it. He adjusted a corroded knob, his ear pressed to ancient headphones. Static, endless static, hissed like a hungry snake. Around him, a small, desperate team worked. A former data technician, Lena, furiously patching frayed wires with scavenged tools, and a couple of grim-faced civilians, armed with makeshift weapons, standing guard. Their mission? Not to fight, not directly, but to send a message. Any message. Frequencies clear. Elias. For now, Lena whispered, her breath fogging in the chill air. Her hands, nimble despite the cold, reconnected a last, vital cable. But we're putting out a hell of a signature. They'll be on us. Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the glowing vacuum tubes of the ancient transmitter. Let them come. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. He took a deep breath, his knuckles white against the bakelite casing. His voice, when it came, was surprisingly steady, a low, resonant rumble. This is Station. Echo Zulu 97. Is anyone out there? Anyone? The silence that followed was immense, heavy with the weight of isolation. Then, a flicker, a faint, almost imperceptible crackling beneath the static. Elias leaned in, eyes wide. It was weak, broken, but it was Kolaver. Not just static. A reply. A human voice. Distorted by unimaginable distance, but undeniably human. Immediately, a low thrum vibrated through the floor. The guards tensed. Outside, a multi-jointed alien scout unit, its optical sensors pulsing with calculated curiosity, had detected the energy spike. Its low, chittering vocalizer transmitted, anomalous primitive energy signature detected. Non-standard broadcast frequency. Proceeding to investigate. They're here, one of the guards hissed, raising a rusty pipe. Lena cursed, her eyes darting between the incoming threat and Elias. We need more power, Elias! It's too weak! No time for more power, Elias rasped, his eyes fixed on the flickering signal. He was already overriding a safety, pushing the ancient machine past its limits. The tubes glowed brighter, humming dangerously. The smell of ozone mixed with rust. Just a little longer for them. The alien unit breached the outer perimeter, its energy carbine raising. But the signal was strengthening. Fragments of voices, snatches of language, a desperate chorus from across a shattered continent, began to pierce the static. Humans, responding. Elias slumped back, sweat beading on his forehead. He'd sent his whisper, and the world, against all odds, had started to whisper back. It was a symphony of defiance, born of old metal and stubborn hope. The aliens, poised to strike, paused, their logical sensors struggling to comprehend the sudden, unquantifiable cacophony of disorganized, inefficient, human time communication. They expected a fight, not a chorus. A single, small voice from the static, clearer now, spoke. We hear you. Hold fast. Hold fast. Simple words. But in that moment, as the alien raised its weapon, and the radio hummed with the ghosts of a connected world, they were everything. We're not alone. That's all we ever needed to hear. The alien pacification unit, designated Hammer 6, moved with the cold, rhythmic precision of a well-oiled machine. Each of its 8 multi-jointed troopers advanced in perfect sync across the ruined plaza, energy carbines sweeping, optical sensors performing their programmed scans. Their objective, clear Sector RH09, eliminate scattered resistance and re-establish resource extraction protocols. The air was thick with the scent of their internal coolant and a faint chemical tang of alien weaponry. This was routine. This was doctrine. Sector Row 9 pacification at 60% efficiency, the lead trooper chittered, its vocalizer converting thought into crisp, emotionless commands. No significant threat detected. Remaining biologicals designated low-tier nuisance. Then the ground bucked. Not an earthquake, but a localized violent heave. A section of the plaza, directly beneath 2 of the Hammer 6 troopers, erupted. Not with an explosive force, but with the sudden impossible upwelling of shattered asphalt and twisted rebar. like a monstrous, slow-motion geyser. It wasn't an attack, not directly. It was a Zooteam breach. The two troopers stumbled, their advanced gyroscopes fighting for balance against the shifting Earth. Their systems shrieked internal warnings. Structural integrity compromise. Unforeseen ground instability. What in the void? A human voice, rough and triumphant, echoed from a nearby storm drain. It was Foreman Rodriguez, an old construction worker, grinning through a smear of grease. He'd used an improvised hydraulic ram, scavenged from a forklift, to burst a water main and destabilize the old roadbed. He didn't care about killing them, he just wanted to mess them up. Before Hammer 6 could re-establish formation, another disruption hit. From the shattered windows of a collapsed department store, a flurry of discarded children's toys, old clothes, and shattered ceramics rained down. It was harmless, but the sheer volume, the unpredictable trajectories, and the sudden clatter against their armored carapaces sent their optical and acoustic sensors into overdrive. Their threat assessment protocols flagged it as a debris cascade event, potential camouflage for hostile projectiles. The unit paused, attempting to analyze the chaotic input, trying to find a pattern. They found none. Just junk. Falling junk. This is illogical. Another trooper clicked, its energy carbine sweeping wildly, trying to lock onto an enemy it couldn't classify. Then came the smell. A noxious, cloying cloud of something utterly vile. A mix of rotting food waste and industrial solvents, atomized by a crude aerosol dispenser. It coated their external sensors, blinding them, burning at their organic components. Their internal comms lit up with frantic, guttural complaints. Sensory overload. Contaminant detected. Rerouting internal filtration. The Hammer 6 unit, once a picture of tactical perfection, was now reeling. 2 troopers were stuck in the collapsing ground. 2 more were momentarily blinded and gagging, and the rest were spinning, trying to identify and neutralize threats that defied their training. They were designed for battle, for predictable engagement. They had no protocol for a plumbing hack, a junk shower, and a stink bomb. From the shadows of the choked plaza, a dozen human figures emerged, not in a charge, but with a strange, grim confidence. They weren't soldiers, not exactly. They were shopkeepers, students, engineers, now armed with crowbars, fire axes, and the fierce glint of improvisation in their eyes. The alien doctrine, designed for a sterile, logical battlefield, had just encountered the messy, infuriating, glorious chaos of humanity. They expected us to follow the rules. But humanity? We write our own, and sometimes those rules are just a bit dirty. The air in the makeshift server room thrummed with the frantic, rhythmic heartbeat of scavenged cooling fans. Fluorescent lights, flickering weakly, cast a sickly yellow glow over Dr. Anya Sharma's sweat-sheened face. Her fingers danced across a patched-together console, a hybrid of alien interface panels and repurposed human keyboards. Outside, the low, guttural growl of alien troop transports rumbled, a constant reminder of the metallic monsters patrolling the shattered streets above. "Javier, give me a clean feed on their comms relay, Gamma Band," Anya murmured, her voice tight with concentration. The scent of ozone and stale coffee hung heavy in the air. Javier, a burly former IT manager, grunted in reply, his own fingers flying across a different array of screens. He was trying to filter the alien static, hoping to isolate something, anything, intelligible. Too much noise. They're broadcasting on 100 frequencies at once, all encrypted, all arrogant. For weeks, Anya's small team had been holed up in this forgotten sub-basement, a data center ironically spared by the initial alien bombardment. Their mission, not to fight with weapons, but with wits. To understand the invaders, to peel back the layers of their technology, to find the whispers within their machines. Anya's eyes, usually tired, suddenly snapped wide. Wait, that harmonic resonance, it's a constant, not a shield, not a weapon signature, it's a heartbeat, a network pulse. Her fingers flew, tracing the intricate web of energy signatures. They're not just communicating, they're flinked. Every unit, every ship, a node in one massive consciousness. Javier leaned over her shoulder, a thrill of cold dread and dawning comprehension chilling his spine. Like a hive mind? A distributed intelligence? Exactly, Anya breathed, her voice filled with a strange, exhilarated awe. And look here. Their primary command frequency, it's not encrypted. It's too obvious. They assume no species could possibly bridge the technological gap to even see it, let alone interpret it. The alien growl outside intensified. Closer now. A deep one sigh reverberated through the concrete ceiling. They were being searched. Time was running out. They underestimate us, Javier, Anya whispered, a grim smile touching her lips. They think their primitive prey is too busy fighting for scraps. They never considered we'd be trying to hack their damn gods. Javier's hands moved with desperate speed, throwing a series of complex human-coded algorithms at the exposed command frequency. The room filled with the whirring protest of overloaded processors. A high-pitched, almost musical chime resonated through their speakers, a sound that cut through the external rumbling. It was an alien tone, clear and unmistakable. Then, a voice, synthesized but distinct, flowed from the speaker. It wasn't the chittering of a ground unit, but a voice of cold, calculated command. Unit 47, report immediate status. Sector Theta compromised. Unauthorized data transfer detected. Origin unknown. Anya and Javier looked at each other, their faces pale but triumphant. They hadn't just tapped into the alien network, they had spoken directly to it. They had introduced an unknown variable into a system that prided itself on perfect predictability. The aliens, for all their tech, hadn't accounted for the human impulse to prod, to disassemble, to simply know t'kan no. That night, for the first time, the invaders didn't just hear human defiance. They heard a human whisper, speaking their own language, right in their commander's ear. And it was just the beginning of their headache. The primary tactical console aboard the Harbinger was screaming, not with a klaxon, but with a torrent of corrupted data, system warnings, and frantic, untranslatable alien chatter. Commander Veron, its multifaceted eyes narrowed to slivers, watched the chaos ripple across its fleet's synchronized network. The clean, elegant flow of command, the backbone of their coordinated assault, was now a fractured mess. "Report!" Veron rasped, its vocalizer distorting the command with a grating static. The air in the observation chamber, usually cool and regulated, felt thick with an invisible, digital dread. Subordinate Unit 88, its optical sensors flickering erratically, projected a cascade of glyphs and graphs. "Commander, the unauthorized data transfer, it is propagating. It mirrors our own command protocols, but it is asterisk wrong. It is not a virus, not a direct attack. It is a distortion, a blasphemy." On the main view screen, the elegant blue lines of their network connectivity now pulsed with erratic red flashes. Interspersed were crude, pixelated images that defied classification. A laughing human face, a symbol of a planet with outstretched arms, what appeared to be a stylized human fist. Nonsensical, disruptive. Their primitive broadcast, the one detected from Sector RH09, another analysis drone, Unit Gamma, projected, its voice a horrified whisper. It was not merely communication, it was a beacon, a vector. They are not transmitting data, they are inserting concepts directly into our command chain. Raw, unfiltered human concepts. Veron felt a tremor, an internal shudder, something alien to its perfectly controlled physiology. This was not war as they understood it. This was an infestation of the mind. "Show me the source," Veron commanded, its voice sharper, laced with something akin to repulsion. The screen zoomed, bypassing layers of planetary defenses, past atmosphere, down to a single, pulsing node, deep within the shattered city below. A tiny, insignificant flicker amidst the ruins. From this point, a surge of chaotic, unpredictable data was being injected directly into the heart of their highly sophisticated, supposedly impenetrable network. It was crude, unsophisticated, yet devastatingly effective, because it simply shouldn't be possible. "They have accessed our primary command frequency," UNIT 88 confirmed, its internal processors visibly struggling, "and they are using it to broadcast emotion, Warnings, encouragements, to their own kind, through our digit system. A fragment of an intercepted human message, somehow amplified and translated by the compromised system, cut through the alien chatter. Hold fast, we're coming for them. We're all coming. The words echoed, not just as sound, but as an alien sense of visceral, untamed energy. Vron's primary optical array spun, focusing on the small, insignificant data point. This wasn't just a tactical error. It was a philosophical affront. Their species had mastered logic, order, the clean eradication of chaotic variables. But these humans, they were chaos incarnate. They had taken the most sacred, most guarded aspect of the Vron network, its silent underlying consciousness, and defiled it with the messy, unpredictable pulse of their own species. They were not just a nuisance, they were an abomination, a glitch in the cosmic order. And for the first time, Vron felt a cold, sharp blade of something unfamiliar pierce its logical mind. Fear. The data stream from Earth intensified, a defiant roar in the digital void. It wasn't just a war for territory anymore, it was a war for definition. And humanity, it turned out, was very good at redefining terms. The hum of the alien scout ship was a low, menacing purr as it descended, its 3 powerful spotlights cutting brutal swaths through the swirling dust and pre-dawn gloom. Below, what was left of the old shipping yard lay in grotesque disarray, crumpled containers, skeletal gantries, and the acrid smell of burnt wiring. From a precarious perch atop a listing stack of cargo boxes, Lena, the former data technician, peered through a cracked scope. Her hands were steady, despite the tremor in her gut. Beside her, a grizzled old dockworker named Marco held a jury-rigged contraption, a heavily modified industrial laser, salvaged from a defunct cutting machine, powered by a sputtering car battery. Wires snaked everywhere, hastily taped and dangerously exposed. "This is insane, Lena," Marco rasped, his breath catching in the cold air. "You really think this glorified flashlight will do anything?" "It's not about damage, Marco," Lena murmured, her eye still glued to the scope, tracking the alien craft. The ship was sleek, dark, utterly invulnerable to anything they had. The aliens thought themselves safe, too far above the primitives to be touched. It's about seeing it, or rather, making them see it where they don't want to. The scout dipped lower, its underbelly revealing an array of optical and sensor apertures. It moved with the confidence of a predator surveying its trapped prey. They didn't know humanity wasn't prey. "Target acquisition," Lena whispered, her voice tightening. "Their primary sensor array, ventral side. It's too clean, too open. They're broadcasting on every visual spectrum, assuming nothing can interfere." "Ready when you are, kid," Marco grunted, his finger hovering over the oversized, crudely wired trigger button. His heart hammered in his chest, a primal drumbeat against the alien hum. This was stupid. This was suicide. But he'd seen Lena work miracles with less. Designated sector is clear of high-density biologicals. The alien ship's synthesized voice crackled through their scavenged shortwave radio, translated by Anya's earlier hack, proceeding to sweep for residual energy signatures. Lena took a deep breath, the cold steel of the scope biting into her cheek. "Now, Marco! Hit it! Keep it steady!" Marco slammed his finger down. With a sudden high-pitched whine, the salvaged laser blazed to life. Not a destructive beam, but an impossibly bright, coherent pulse of emerald light. It shot upwards, a vivid green needle piercing the gloom, straight for the alien scout's underbelly. The effect was instantaneous and startling. The ship didn't explode. It didn't even spark. Instead, the area where the laser hit vanished, not physically, but from their view. The sleek alien platings shimmered, then turned into a blur of static on Lena's scope. The ship's own spotlights flickered erratically, as if suddenly blinded by its own systems. Inside the scout, the alien pilots shrieked, their multifaceted eyes suddenly flooded with an overwhelming, focused light frequency they had no filters for. Their sophisticated optical arrays, designed for precision mapping and threat identification, were screaming. Visual anomaly, extreme retinal overload, sensory disruption, unable to process environmental data. The ship lurched, its perfect flight path breaking. It ascended rapidly, not in a tactical retreat, but a panicked scramble, trying to escape the invisible blinding assault. It didn't know what hit it. It just knew it couldn't see. Marco stared, his jaw slack. It actually worked. Lena, a fierce grin spreading across her grimy face, lowered the scope. They rely on perfect data, Marco. Perfect sight. What happens when we deny them that? What happens when we paint their target with something they can't comprehend? They might think their technology is superior, their vision unimpeded. But humans? We always find a way to shine a light on their blind spots. And sometimes, that's all it takes. The bridge of the Harbinger was no longer a realm of quiet, calculating efficiency. Commander Veron's primary optical sensors registered the frantic clicks of Unit 88, its segmented form twitching with what might be alien agitation. The tactical console, usually a calm blue lattice of data, flared with orange warnings interspersed with corrupted, nonsensical glyphs. The air, usually sterile, felt thick with the metallic tang of overheating processors. The scout reports are consistent. Commander, UNIT-88 rasped, its vocalizer strained. Localized sensory blindness in Sector GAMMA7. Cause: an improvised, highly focused light emitter. Beyond that, residual energy signatures persist in the affected areas, small, intermittent, too faint to resolve, too numerous to ignore. Veron cycled through the data feeds. The memory of the emerald light, too bright, too focused, still burned in the data streams of the returning scout ships. Their optical arrays, designed to scan every spectrum with clinical precision, had been overwhelmed by a single, primitive beam. It defied logic. The humans didn't attack. They simply blinded them, leaving them momentarily adrift in the dark. But beyond the physical blinding, something else was invading their systems. Phantom pings, ghost blips on their long-range scanners. Not an incoming missile, not a power signature. Just a flicker, a presence. The data streams were riddled with tiny, untraceable errors. Not malicious code, but subtle, persistent whispers of asterisk something out there. These ghost signatures, they are everywhere. Another analysis drone. Unit Gamma, projected, its internal processors visibly struggling. Patrol routes, previously cleared, now show faint, intermittent energy spikes. No source, no pattern, just a feeling of observation. Veron focused its primary optical array on the main view screen. The grid of the planet below, once a map of conquered territory, now seemed to ripple with unseen currents. They couldn't see the humans. Not in the ruins, not in the shadows. But now it felt as if the humans could see them. It is a psychological tactic, Veron finally clicked, the sound tight, almost a growl. They wish to disorient us, to create doubt. They are not attacking, but they are ensuring we know we are being watched. Everywhere, the data showed no proof of direct threat, only the implication of one. The humans weren't engaging in conventional warfare. They were leveraging the very tools of their invaders. The expectation of clean data, perfect visibility, logical engagement, and twisting them. The aliens were designed for a war they could see, measure, and quantify. But how do you fight a shadow you can't locate? A presence that defies all sensors? A whisper in your own machine? An intercepted fragment of a human message, amplified and distorted by the compromised network, cut through the comms. It was a single, resonant word. Soon. Veron felt it then. A cold, alien dread. The species they had judged as weak, chaotic, and inefficient wasn't just resisting. It was playing a game the Veron couldn't comprehend. The humans were not just refusing to be seen as weak. They were making the aliens feel weak. They had no fear of humanity. But they were learning to fear the unseen. And as every flicker, every ghost ping, every distorted whisper echoed through their systems, the aliens began to truly understand. Nothing is more terrifying than an enemy you know is watching, but you cannot find. The silence, broken only by the distant hum of alien patrols, was a lie. Tonight, the city wasn't just breathing, it was singing. A discordant, beautiful symphony of defiance was building, a crescendo of chaos orchestrated across shattered blocks. In a derelict broadcast studio, its ancient equipment jury-rigged with scavenged alien tech, Elias, the old radio man, stood over a panel of humming speakers. Lana, the data tech, tapped a final sequence into a hacked alien comms unit. "Ready, Elias? Give them the full cacophony." He nodded, a grim smile touching his lips. With a flick of a switch, the air ripped open. Not with a single blast, but with a torrent of synchronized sound, ear-splitting feedback, distorted snippets of human rock anthems, static-laced warnings from ancient broadcasts, and a chilling, low-frequency hum designed to rattle alien internal comms. All of it blasted from dozens of hidden speaker arrays, a wall of pure, calculated auditory assault. Across the sectors, alien ground patrols reeled. Their precise audio sensors, designed to categorize and ignore primitive noise, were flooded. They clicked and chittered in confusion, their formations wavering, energy carbines sweeping wildly, acoustic anomaly, disorienting frequencies, source scattered and unclassifiable. Before they could recalibrate, the light joined the chorus. From unseen rooftop perches, a dozen concentrated emerald beams lanced out, not to destroy, but to blind. Marco, the old dock worker, squinted through his modified laser scope, his finger steady as he painted an alien scout's primary optical array. He wasn't alone. Other beams, precisely timed, flared across the sector. Momentary whiteouts, synchronized across wide areas, hit alien scanners during their critical sweep cycles. Pilots and low-flying scouts shrieked, their multifaceted eyes overwhelmed by the sudden, focused light frequencies they had no filter for. Their ships lurched, their flight paths breaking. Visual whiteout, environmental interference, identity of source, multiple, diffuse. This wasn't random. This was a precise, terrible dance. The blinding lights forced alien scout ships to ascend, making them predictable targets for primitive, ground-based missiles. The acoustic barrage forced ground units to tighten formations, making them vulnerable to synchronized, small-scale attacks from the shadows. Every alien defensive maneuver was now a human opportunity. From her sub-basement command center, Anya watched the tactical map. Green blips representing alien units flickered, turned yellow, disoriented, then pulsed red, engaged in a fight they couldn't see coming. A grim satisfaction settled over her face. "They're dancing to our tune now," she whispered, watching the data stream show multiple alien units breaking formation in frustration. The aliens came expecting a slaughter. They found an orchestra. And humanity? We had just learned to conduct. The bridge of the Harbinger was a kaleidoscope of warning lights and blaring alarms. The once pristine tactical console now pulsed with corrupted data, a digital fever dream. Commander Veron, its multifaceted eyes spinning frantically, struggled to process the cacophony. The air, usually regulated to a cool analytical hum, vibrated with internal tension and the metallic tang of strained processors. "Reports, Commander, are conflicting." UNIT-88 rasped, its segmented form twitching. Ground units in Sector GAMMA7 report simultaneous sensory disruption. Acoustic overload, visual blinding. Disorientation at 90%. Multiple friendly fire incidents confirmed due to obscured threat vectors. Veron's internal processing units churned. This wasn't a coordinated assault. Not in their definition of warfare. It was a two-swarm, NICE. Unorganized, inefficient, yet devastatingly effective at breaking down their logical systems. The humans weren't fighting. They were simply existing too loudly, too brightly, too chaotically. And the orbital surveillance? Veron clicked, its vocalizer grating. Unit Gamma projected a distorted image onto the main screen. Instead of clear thermal or visual sweeps, the image showed vast areas of static, interspersed with phantom pings. "Commander, our long-range optical arrays, they detect residual energy signatures at the exact frequencies of the primitive light emitters. they linger. They don't dissipate efficiently. They are creating after-images in our sensors, false positives for hours. Varan cycled through the data. It wasn't just physical blinding anymore. These humans were subtly corrupting their perception of reality. The very ground they had scorched, the infrastructures they had shattered, these were now being used as canvases for human ingenuity, as components for their improvised weapons. The vast debris fields they created with their orbital bombardment, now perfect concealment. The shattered power grids, now sources for chaotic electrical surges. They are utilizing the very conditions of our pacification to generate these anomalies, Varan realized, the clicks slow, chilling. Our destruction is their strength. A fragment of an intercepted human message, now amplified and distorted through the Harbinger, Hess compromised comms, cut through the noise. It wasn't a threat, not a command. It was laughter. A single, guttural, utterly human sound of defiant amusement, followed by a clear, confident voice. Keep 'em guessing. They hate what they can't calculate. Varan felt it then, the true cost of their initial judgment. Their sin wasn't just invading. Their sin was underestimating a species that saw a ruined planet not as a tomb, but as a junkyard filled with possibilities. A species that reveled in the impossible. They had come to conquer, to pacify, to extract resources from a weak, divided world. Instead, they had inadvertently created the greatest tactical improvisers the galaxy might ever see. They had unleashed the monster they thought was a lamb. The echo of their sin was reverberating through every system, every unit, every logical mind on the Harbinger. It was the sound of humanity, laughing in the face of annihilation, turning every defeat into a fresh, impossible victory. It was the terrifying realization that you can burn a planet, but you can't burn away a spirit that refuses to die politely.